In this video, I'm gonna break some common myths and beliefs in photography, like for example, that a full-frame camera is the only proper professional camera, and 4 more. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer and a Lumix ambassador from Helsinki, Finland. And in this video, I'm gonna break 5 common myths or beliefs in photography. There are obviously a lot more common beliefs and myths, but in this video, to keep this video reasonably short, I'm just gonna break 3 common ones. And it's unbelievable that there are so many myths and beliefs that have no base whatsoever, but still they keep popping up, and even sometimes pretty established or big name, maybe YouTubers, are telling something that is simply not true. But let's start with the full frame myth. It's a common belief for many that a full-frame camera is the only proper professional camera. But that is just a load of garbage, and it's astonishing how many people even today in 2020 spread that garbage. During my professional career, which is modest almost 40 years, I've used all kinds of cameras for professional work. And today I still use both Micro Four Thirds and full frame camera for my professional work. Both systems have their ups and downs, but they are both great systems and I love to use both of them. Maybe for a little bit different jobs, but I still use them both and I like them both. And I think the best camera buying decision you can make is to buy the camera that you like. Buy the camera that you like even before you buy it. And then reassure or confirm your decision by going to a camera store and handling the camera. And if you still like it, buy it. And never buy a camera that someone else recommends you to buy if you don't like the camera. Because if you buy a camera that you are likely to make better pictures also using that camera. And the next pretty common myth or belief is that you buy a system camera so that you can use as many lenses as possible. Of course, a system camera was invented so that we can use many lenses on the same camera body. But it still doesn't mean that you should collect a certain amount of lenses or 10 lenses to be able to shoot something. I think the beauty of a system camera is that you can combine your favorite lens and your favorite camera body together. Of course, you can't fit every lens on every camera, but there is a really big selection of lenses for every camera if you count all those lenses that you can use with an adapter. So it makes sense to buy a system camera even if you only use one lens, because the selection of fixed lens cameras is pretty limited after all. And of course, when I'm on assignment, I usually take quite a few lenses with me and quite a few camera bodies also, because I hate changing lenses in the middle of a photo shoot. I would rather change cameras than lenses. And I take all those lenses with me because I can't be quite sure what's waiting for me at the location, especially if I've never been there before. And sometimes the client may come up with a new idea in the middle of a shoot, and then I may need a wide angle or telephoto or whatever lens. But whenever I'm shooting something for myself, I usually keep it very minimal. I take one camera and one lens with me. And that's the way I like it. And also remember, the more you keep changing lenses, the less you keep taking photographs. And taking photographs is what photography is all about. It's not about changing lenses or fondling your camera or gear. It's about taking photographs. And the next one is related to the previous one. The myth is that you need a certain lens kit or a certain number of lenses or certain lenses to kind of complete your setup. But that is not simply true. There are no certain lenses that you have to have. Of course, you have to have one lens at least to be able to take pictures with your camera, but there is no certain number of lenses or certain lenses that you have to have. Of course, a professional photographer, like I said before, is different because as a professional, I have to be able to do what my client wants. But if you're a hobbyist or an amateur, no one is going to tell you what you have to shoot. And for some people, maybe they only need one lens. And some people may need 2 or 3 lenses. And I'd go as far as saying that for most people out there, 3 lenses should be enough to cover everything they shoot on a regular basis. There are these questions on various social media groups every day, asking something like this: hey guys, I already have these 4 lenses. Could you suggest me a couple of more lenses to complete my collection of lenses or my setup? But no one can really answer those questions. If you're a lens collector, then that's different. Collect all the lenses you want. But if you are a photographer, then I think you know when you need another lens. Because at least you should know what you're going to do with the lens even before you buy it. I think it doesn't make any sense to buy lenses just because you need 6 or 7 lenses. There's just no sense in that. And I could not imagine myself walking around, if I'm shooting for myself, walking around there with my camera and 6 lenses in my camera bag. Those lenses would just be extra weight and extra distraction for me. And like I said before, I hate changing lenses in the middle of a photo shoot. And especially if I'm shooting for myself, why would I keep changing lenses all the time? It's just taking my attention or my concentration away from my photography. And before I move to the next one, please subscribe, like, and all that, and also check out my merch. There's a link down below. And the next myth is that the sharpness is one of the key elements in a photograph. And by that I mean, let me tell you an example what I mean here. Quite recently I saw a picture of a dog on one of the social media groups, and the photographer was not happy with the sharpness of the picture. And he was asking what kind of settings he could use in his camera to get better sharpness. And I'm looking at the picture and I'm thinking, you know, there's nothing wrong with the sharpness, but there are some other things that I would correct. So the sharpness was the least of the problems in that photograph. And it was not a bad picture. I think it was a pretty decent family album photo and a nice memory of that moment with the pet. So it was not a bad picture, not a great picture, but not a bad picture either. But the biggest problem was not the lack of sharpness, in my opinion. See, the key elements in a photograph are the subject, light, composition, and timing. And timing means the moment you press the shutter. And to learn all those key elements in a photograph, to learn to see the light, to learn to see the composition, and to learn the timing, to press the shutter at the right moment, and to learn the, what did I forget, to find great subjects. It's not happening overnight, but trust me, you should not worry about the sharpness in your pictures at the beginning. You should worry about seeing the light, seeing the subject, seeing the composition, and getting your timing right. And once you've mastered those, or once you learn to see those, by that time you have also learned how to focus and how to get enough sharpness in your pictures. Trust me, it's gonna go that way. And the sharpness is nothing unless you also have those other 4 main elements in your photograph. But if you have all those 4 elements in your photograph, but it's not perfectly sharp, it's still gonna be a great photograph. So you don't need absolute sharpness, but you need good light, good composition, good timing, and good subject. Those are essential for a great photograph. So worry less about the sharpness and worry more about those 4 things I mentioned. And the next one is somewhat related to the previous one. The shallow depth of field is one key element in a photograph. But also that is a load of garbage. Shallow depth of field can be handy in some professional situations. I've used it many times on assignment. For example, when I have to take a portrait, but all over the place on the location, the background looks like crap. So the only way to isolate my subject from the background and make the background look somewhat like pleasing is to make it really soft, the background. And to do that, I'm using shallow depth of field. But shallow depth of field is not necessary for a great photograph. Like I said before, the key elements in a great photograph are the light, subject, composition, and timing. And you need those to make a great photograph, but you don't need shallow depth of field. The depth of field and the ability to control the depth of field is a way to control where the viewer is going to look at first when he or she is looking at the photograph. But you can do that with either shallow depth of field or with deep or lots of depth of field. And I'd be ready to say that most of the extremely shallow depth of field photographs are not great photographs. They might look good, but I think a great photograph needs, of course, that main subject, but it also needs some of the foreground and some of the background to add to the story in that picture. And that is only possible with enough depth of field to cover some of that foreground and some of the background. But I'd like to hear also what you think about these myths and beliefs I was just talking about. Please leave me a comment down below and tell your opinion. So that's it, some myth busting this time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.